So let us move towards our next session, shall we? Yes or no? I cannot hear all of you. Yes or no? Okay, great. So this session is titled as Better Health and Inclusiveness, and as author for this session, we are delighted to have Kalki Subramaniam ji with us, and as the discussion, we are thrilled to have Harikeerthan Raghuram ji with us. मैं चाहूँगा तालियों से उनका स्वागत करें इस मंच पे. Kalki Subramaniam, inspiring women of the world who use Facebook as a community development platform for empowerment. That is huge. And she has been a prominent speaker at prestigious forums such as the India Conference, Harvard University, University of California, Ministry of Global Affairs Canada, and more. हम तहे दिल से आपका स्वागत करते हैं. जोरदार तालियां होनी चाहिए. And as the discussion for the day, we have Harikeerthan Raghuram ji. He is an early career public health researcher with a passion for health equity. लग रहा है उनके काफी fans आए हुए हैं. Yes. He currently works as a senior project coordinator at Sangat Bhopal, where he coordinates the initiative for health equity advocacy and research, where they work with the LGBTQA and the specially abled communities. He is also a trained family physician from Christian Medical College, Vellore, and holds an MSc in Health and International Development from LSA. I would request the dignitaries to please unfold the conversation, and we must support them with a round of applause.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. So, when I walked into Bharat Bhavan today, thank you. Oh, thank you. When I walked into Bharat Bhavan today, I really like Bharat Bhavan because of the location, of course, and I'm sure all of you are enjoying it. One thing I really liked was the number of colors around us and how beautiful it was. Even on the backdrop, if you look at it, so many different colors makes us so happy. Why don't we take a look around us? Take a look at each other. Can you actually do it? Is there anybody here who's looking like another? None of us here look like anybody else. We're all different. We're all different in how we look, how we act, how we think. Difference and diversity is not something abnormal. It is a norm of living as a human. It's not something to be frowned upon, but something to be celebrated. Then why is it that there are sections in our community who don't have the same access to a life that many of us have? Why is it that we treat some people in a different way than others? Today in Bharat Bhavan, shall we look at these colors among us, this diversity among us differently? Can we accept this diversity? Can we listen to these diverse voices? And can we listen with complete acceptance? Can we do that? That's it? Thank you. With that, I'm proud to introduce my panelist, Kalki. Thank you so much, Kalki, for coming to Bhopal. I know that you had come with a lot of excitement, but that excitement has been affected by recent incidences. So may I request you to share your opening remarks now.
Thank you, Harikeerthan. And there was supposed to be one more chair, but that chair is not here because, of course, Onir is not here. I stand in solidarity and support for filmmaker and writer Onir, who was supposed to speak here but cannot. I would also like to say that hatred and violence cannot and should not replace love and friendship. In India particularly, of course, where we're all diverse, we speak different languages, we are from different cultures, we Even the clothes that we wear is different. And Onir cannot come here because of the hate and hate that he faced. But I, as a trans woman and as a member of the queer community, I stand in support of him, and through me, I bring his voice. So hatred, exclusion, and violence have no place in India, and it's all about love, inclusion, and friendship. Thank you. And I also wanted to, for those who don't know who's LGBT or who don't understand the queer community or who cannot digest that we are here and we belong here and it's our space too, I just wanted to tell them that a few days ago, RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat ji actually said he came in support of the LGBTQI community. And I'm going to read a small quote from, oh, it was yesterday. Okay, thank you. He in his interview, he has said that, I mean, it's a quote. He has said a lot of things in support. We want them to have their own space and feel that they are a part of society. People with such proclivities have always been there for as long as humans have existed. And I would definitely like to thank Mohan Bhagwat ji. Thank you for being understanding us at last and recognizing our community's human rights and of course our place in Indian society, which has existed forever and will also be here. We are here forever. We cannot be excluded. It's our space. We belong here. And thank you. To begin with, I would simply say that, you know, hatred and violence and exclusion and homophobia and transphobia is not what India is all about. It actually came here after the arrival of the British and the Victorian morality, and especially if you look at how, in 1871 or in the 18th and 19th centuries, transgender people have existed for many thousands of years in India. Take Mahabharata and Ramayana. Arjuna was cursed to be a trans woman, transgender, or eunuch, whatever you would call it. And then Arjuna is Brihanala. As Brihanala, the transgender, Arjuna wasn't begging. Brihanala was not begging or doing even sex work or not hated or thrown out of her house. Brihanala was, in fact, teaching martial arts and dance to Princess Uttara. And Shikandi, who has the soul of a woman and the body of a man. Shikandi was one of the greatest warriors and one of the reasons for the Mahabharata war. This was not 200, 300, 1,000 years ago. It was thousands of years ago. So India, and in another version of Ramayana, Rama blesses the transgender people. So across India, if you take Kama Sutra or the sculptures, across many, many sculptures of Ardhanarishwara, this all talks about the oneness, the inclusivity, and the presence of LGBTQIQ queer community space in our community. So the hatred actually happened, the misunderstanding actually happened after the arrival of the British, especially when they introduced the Criminal Tribes Act of 1871, which later modified and then spread across the country. They criminalized more than 33 communities of people. And one of the community, of course, including gypsies and, you know, street dancers and all that, one of the community was the transgender Hijra community, the eunuch community. And since then, what does that mean? The Criminal Tribes Act mean is that they can arrest a transgender, a eunuch person anytime, because they thought we are all nuisance. Eunuch people are all nuisance. So they can be arrested anytime, put into the jail or into custody, and can be interrogated without any warrant. So that was the decline, how the Britishers felt, how their Victorian morality was introduced as a law, and how the community which was living in palaces and which also had a place in the history and epics of our community, our place declined and we became the subjects of violence and hatred, and that comes from the Victorian morality. And that's not even India. that comes from Europe, of course. So the hatred, the violence, the exclusion that we are talking about for gay people and LGBTQI people, including transgender people, is not ours. It doesn't come from our country. It comes from colonialism. It comes from, its origin is not in here. It's coming from the West. So hatred or hatred or violence or exclusion is not about India. It's from not from India. It's from elsewhere. And I just wanted to say that if you're not allowing a gay person to speak, you're actually following the Western culture, not our Indian culture. Yeah, and and I would also read one of my poetry from my book, We Are Not the Others. It's about how transgender people are stereotyped with different statements and questions every day. It's called Don't Tell That to Me. I'm tired of you telling me how I don't look like a transgender woman. I'm tired of you telling me I look just like a real woman. I'm tired of you telling me I'm so brave. I am tired of you telling me everything is perfect, except my voice, which could be more feminine. I'm tired of you asking me when was the first time I felt that I'm a transgender. I am tired of you asking me if I live with my family. I am tired of your curiosity. I am tired of your sympathy. I am tired of your stare. I am tired of your whispers. I am tired of you asking me to bless you. To you and to the million others, I want to shout, I am made of flesh and blood, of fear and hope, of joy and pain. I am like you. I am human too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kalki, for sharing that beautiful poem. And I want to go back to something you said earlier about how a lot of this is a colonial overhang. And I think I've also been a victim of that in terms of, I trained as a doctor. I trained as a doctor in one of the best colleges in the country. But I never had any training, anything in the subject, anything in the textbooks that taught us about what is the difference between sex and gender. As doctors, we are trained to assume that whatever sex we decide at birth, the sex assigned at birth, this is a boy, a ladka hai, ladki hai, and that is the gender for life. There's no space for anyone to have a gender identity that is different from the sex assigned at birth. And in fact, wrong things are taught, like homosexuality is criminal, homosexuality is a psychiatric disorder, being a transgender is a psychiatric disorder. Yeah, a lot of wrong things are continued to being taught in medical education, and I've been a victim of that. And when I started learning about the LGBT community, it was a steep learning curve. And it's only the last 3 years that I've been able to learn. And as a doctor, I used to wonder why people from the LGBT community I never saw them in the clinic, never saw them in the hospital. Nobody taught them. They were not there in the case discussions. And I used to always wonder why. And now at Sangat, as part of the I Hear initiative, and we are doing research and speaking to people from the community, I realize that the problem is me. Doctors like me who have been treating people from the LGBT community and the trans community in very badly, stigmatizing them, discriminating them. People have been telling horrific stories to us of abuse and sexual abuse from doctors, from the healthcare community, and because of which they are hesitant to go to healthcare settings, and that is why I did not see them. And now I'm starting to learn and unlearn a lot of things, and we need to change this. As doctors, as police professionals, as lawyers, we need to start learning about what it means to not be a heterosexual man or a cisgendered person, but what it is to be a trans woman, what it is to be a gay man. We need to learn that, and we need to let go of these biases that have been inbuilt into our upbringing. And that brings us to your book. So I think the medical community, generally in society, we've always been thinking of the LGBT community as the others. Yes. And I think your book also reflects that. And I've been reading this book, and it's a really beautiful book, and it brings together a lot of stories from Kalki's own life, Kalki's activism, Kalki's own poetry, as well as artwork. It's a beautiful book. Please read it. And I want to ask you, what made you write this book? I know this, it must have been really difficult. It's a result of tears and blood that has come, lived experience that has come out as this book. Can you tell us in your own words?
Thank you for asking me this question. I think I was one of the very few persons in the country who, from the transgender community, who was accepted by the families. If you look at the transgender Hijra community out there, many of them are into begging, sex work, dancing and all that. And they have been excluded because they've been excluded by their families. Otherwise, they would have had the opportunity to continue their education, would have that protection and safety from their family, and above all, would have the respect and dignity from their own families and from the society as well. If I speak English today, and if I'm a double post graduate, and if I speak at Harvard and Yale and Cornell and all those universities, it's because my backbone is the family support. I had it. Otherwise, if I hadn't had it, probably I'll be begging on the streets as well. So please understand that whoever is begging or doing sex work is a victim of exclusion by their own biological families. Can you imagine when your mother and father don't want you? Because you drank your mom's breast milk and you grew up with dreams like other kids. Just because you're different in a slighter way, you are excluded, and then one day your life changes and you're disowned, and then you are left on the streets without food, without clothes, without an identity, and then you have to rename yourself into the name that you want. You have to wear clothes that you want. That's in one way freedom. At the same time, it's very, very painful. As a transgender kid, as a gender non-conforming kid, I had to go through a lot of abuse in school, physical and bullying and all that at school, not just by students but also by teachers. And then in college, I went through physical abuse and sexual abuse too. Every transgender person in this country at one point of time has gone through sexual abuse. But they don't even have the time and the opportunity to speak about it, because they're always running for their livelihood, money and all that, because it's about transition. Transition from the one gender to the other. Medically costs, as you know, Harikeerthan, it costs lakhs of rupees, and not everybody can afford it. Not everybody can afford it. This book is through my voice, through my presence, I'm actually mimicking our community's concerns, and this is about my pain, and through my pain, it's more about my anger actually. It's not just pain and tears and all that. I think as a child, I've gone through a lot of bullying, and at 12, I wanted to commit suicide because nobody wanted to accept me. In my entire life, I've lost so many transgender people who are close to me, in suicide, in murder, in HIV, AIDS, and all that. Think about what kind of loss that is personally for me. People I grew up with, even though I had a family acceptance, I still was close to the transgender community. I lost them in suicide. I lost them in murder. I lost them in AIDS and all that. And this is their voice, and it's about, I think I would have broken down and I would have destroyed myself, but I stood up, not for me, but for them, and I put my anger not into a negative energy, I would say, I put it into a positive energy. I converted it into poetry and art. Since I'm an artist as well, when I paint my joy. I paint the beauty, the things that I love, the people that I love. Like Frida Kahlo is one of my iconic subjects. Frida Kahlo is one of my iconic subjects. I paint her very often. And when I write poetry, it's about anger. So these are two medium of art. When I talk about literature and art, I think for me as a trans woman, art and literature have played a greater role in healing me personally, in making me the person I am. Because without them, I don't think I would have shaped my life. These were outlets, art and literature were outlets for any person, not just the queer person, for any person who is oppressed, is as a minority and is misunderstood and marginalized. These were the venues. I think in that way, yes, I would say I transitioned and channeled my energy, negative energy, into positive one, and that too into poetry and painting.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry to hear about the difficulties that you had
Thank you.
from the rest of the society.
Yes.
You spoke about art and literature, and earlier Ragachandra sir spoke about the role of art and literature in society. How has art and literature been generally portraying the LGBT community? And why is it important for people from the LGBT community to bring out their voices through art and literature?
I think when we talk about the old literature, of course, as I said, Kama Sutra and Ramayana and Mahabharata, we all have references throughout the history, even during the Mughal period, of course. But in contemporary literature, after the arrival of the British and the colonization and all that, the transgender community became excluded, and we were always running after our livelihood, and wherever we were accepted, migrating from one place to the other. Most transgender people in Tamil Nadu can speak Hindi because they come to Delhi and then go to Mumbai and then all that. I don't speak Hindi. I wish I had, but I don't speak Hindi because I didn't have the opportunity to migrate. So it's like that. And
How is general literature portraying the community?
yes, when we talk about the contemporary literature, I think only for the past 15 years, even before 15 years, it was cisgender people. Those people who were not transgender. Many of you from the cisgender community were the ones who were researching, writing literature, writing about our own lives and all that through novels. And in Tamil, we have Vadamalli by the famous writer Su Samudram. And such references have been there. And it was only through in 2000s that transgender people began to write. And that happened, I would say, in Tamil Nadu first. Asha Bharati, Revati, Living Smile Vidya, they all wrote. And then I wrote the first collection of my poetry in Tamil called Kuri Arutten, which means phallus I cut. I'll be reading one of those poetry as well. And then Lakshmi wrote Lakshmi Hijra. And then Manvi Bandyopadhyay and Akai Padmashali wrote a book. And most literature is coming from our own community, but we are just a few in numbers. And through our presence in the literary world is minimal because we are all struggling, though we don't have, we are struggling, and so literature is something that has become a luxury for us. To expressing ourselves in painting and poetry is a sacred space for us, and I think only a few of us who had the opportunity to get educated, be literate, we could come out with books like this. Books, of course. So in that way, I think in at least in the gay literature, I think there are some fascinating books written by gay authors and all that, but from the transgender community, we are very minimal in numbers. Yeah. Probably just 10 people of us have published books. I think so. That's why inclusion is important. A space like Bhopal Literature Festival is amazing, and I think any literature festival should include queer literature. That is the future, of course. Yeah.
Thanks. You said about the future, and I want to quote something from your book, which says, "Do remember that there is no complete man or complete woman in this world. If anyone as such existed ever, they can never understand the emotions of the opposite gender. In every man, there is a woman, and in every woman, there is a man. How much of a man is a woman, and how much of a woman is a man, is what makes us all."
Absolutely. I believe so. Is there any complete man here? Can you please raise your hands? If there is any complete man, 100% man, or if there are any 100% women, can you raise your hands, please? Okay, nobody. So I think we all come from a woman's womb. So definitely every man has that beautiful feminineness which needs to be celebrated.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of us men do enjoy that aspect, but we feel bad. We have to do it in hiding because the society is not accepting of that. And most of us grow up of the world in the binary of male, female, man, woman, masculine, feminine. And you break down that idea of the binary in your book, and you speak about how the future is non-binary. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, definitely the future is non-binary because it is from moving from darkness to the light. When we talk about the future, it's about the knowledge. It's about acknowledging the spaces for the excluded community. It's about acknowledging and accepting the spaces of people whom you did not recognize but now began to recognize. Transgender people need to be recognized and accepted by our society because we have always been there and will always be here, and we deserve our spaces in art, in literature, in science, in education, in entrepreneurship, in politics, in judiciary, in legislature, everywhere we belong. And that is the future, not just transgender people. People from the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, asexual, people, pansexual, people with every gender identity deserve equal and justified space. And of course, through my literature, I'm trying to express gender justice.
Gender justice.
Yes.
What does that mean? What does that mean to you?
When you understand gender injustice, I think you would understand gender justice. Because so far the transgender, hijra, or whatever you call it as a third gender community, we have been excluded, in a way crucified for not being, for being who we are, for the way we are and all that. And of course, that is injustice. And we stand up today for our rights. We stand up, we resist violence, we resist exclusion, and that we seek, through that we seek equal rights, gender justice. Thank you. Thank you.
You said you wanted to read a
Yes,
poem.
I wanted to read my book. Of course, some of them, some of the toxic, yeah, thank you. Some of the toxic masculinity here might be offended, but please accept my poetry, not my apology. Thank you. It goes like this. Phallus, I cut. You all know what is phallus, of course, it's penis. Phallus, I cut. No transcendental yoga I performed to transform myself into a woman. I cut my phallus, soiled in blood and transcending death, I became a woman. Oh, you do not have ovary, woman you are not, said you. Well, wait, as you have severed your manhood, you are now a desolate tree with decayed barks. You have dug the grave of your own lineage. Live you may till your roots last. The earth that bears you shall give up one day as you have not planted your branches below, said you. Well, here goes me. I do not want an ovary to carry your excretions of caste and religious fanaticism. And I do not want in my ovary the gestation of those seeds to grow into a tyrannous tree. Many a woman, as she carried the seeds of your discriminations, made her ovary your lavatory. Luckily, I'm not a woman by birth. Luckily, I'm not a woman by birth. And that you refuse me to accept me as one is in fact my real freedom. I do not recite the gynogrammar you have crafted. Call me an error of nature. Call me an error of nature. Or call me whatever you will. I know it myself for sure, who I am at any given hour. Renouncing religion, casting away caste, we are united as the rejected. Can you live this life we live? Can you become a mother without carrying a womb? Can you become a daughter without sucking at your mother's breast? I can. Cut the phallus of your chauvinism. Cut the phallus of your chauvinism, and then you will know who you are. And then you will know who you are. And then, and only then, you tell me that I'm not a woman. So that's about phallus I cut. It's about, a lot of people I've seen that, oh, you look like a real woman. Like my previous poetry. Your voice is so deep. You could have worked on your voice. I support people like you. It's like people like you. So it's all, in a way, it's a creamy exclusion, So that's how it is.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think we all have to read that again and again and keep reminding ourselves, because from the world, we keep getting the other message of othering. And so
I also wanted to say that this was originally written in Tamil. The first poetry I read was written by me in English, but the poetry that I read was written in Tamil by me, called Kuri Aruthen, and then it was translated in English by a man, by Professor Ilango Nadesan from the Madurai Kamaraj University. So I need to acknowledge that.
So I'd like to open up to the audience for questions, but before that, just one last question to you. This is the first time you're in Bhopal?
This is the second time. I think a few years ago, I was invited to the LGBT Pride Parade. I danced on the streets around the lake. I was so excited. So this time, it's the second. I would have loved if there was a rainbow flag and a transgender flag here, but still, I think it's a great space. And I must thank the organizers and the society for culture and environment for this space. I know how much difficult they faced, but still, through my voice, I am representing the entire queer community.
What would you advise to the residents of Bhopal to make our city more LGBTQIA plus inclusive?
Just accept everyone as they are, in spite of our color, in spite of our caste, in spite of our dress, in spite of our status, whether it's political or economical or social. I mean, it's all about love. Underneath our blood, underneath our genital organs and everything, we are just blood and flesh and bones. I mean, if we die today, in under 1 week, everybody is rotting. Everybody, in spite of caste, gender, we are all rotting. So when we live, I think we need to live with love and friendship, and that is what is future, and that is what India has always been. As a proud Indian, I would like to extend my love and affection for Bhopal. It's an amazing place, very beautiful, and I just want to tell another statement also. Keep Bhopal clean and healthy, and climate is one of the things that we need to be concerned. So support climate activists, gender activists.
I think Bhopal has been extremely lucky to have you, Kalki, here with us.
Thank you, Harikeerthan.
Over to you for audience questions.
Out of time, just one question, please. That's my...
One, thank you so much for being here. It is a privilege for us to have you with us. You have given us very great insights. Number two, I want to ask you, do you think the traditional daughter-in-law was not a marginalized minority?
Traditional daughter-in-law, all the daughter-in-laws are in one way marginalized, and in another way, all the mother-in-law are also marginalized.
Because
when they're excluded
yeah.
by their sons.
Yeah, any kind of exclusion is a bad deal.
Yeah.
I want to just add that I have a young brother who has a same-sex marriage, and he's got children, and he also is one of the international architects, landscape architects of this world. So we have to always realize that people have more than their sexuality to give to our society, and see what we have got from Kalki. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
So
That
kind of
was,
you. That's so kind of you to share.
indeed, that was an insightful session. I'm so sorry we are running out of time. मुझे पता है आप सभी के मन में सवाल है. I'm so sorry. Okay, sure.
Thanks, Kalki ji. It was a great session. I really loved your poem, and it's just a personal question. Writing such a bold poem, I mean, it would have been very challenging in the sense the way a lot of people in today's society are also very exclusive, and the way Kanish ji said, you you get marginalized.
Yes.
So, what kind of challenges did you face when you put out such a bold form of poetry out to the people, whether it's in the Tamil literature or the English one? Because it's really bold, and I also we flipped the pages of your book, and I saw the paintings. They were equally amazing.
Thank
You're a genuine and a true artist. So what kind of challenges did you face? Because it's still very scary for certain people, and the way they are just looked at because through their sexuality.
Okay.
Challenges.
I think the real challenge I faced was within myself to express. Because in many of the poems when I wrote, I broke down. For example, I've also written about war, the Sri Lankan Tamil Sinhalese war and all that. When I wrote about that, in comparison with the transgender women's struggle, with the Tamil women's struggle there, I think I broke down because of the kind of, war destroys everyone, everything, So in that way, I would say that for my poetry, I have not faced any kind of challenges or opposition or anything. I wish I had faced, because I could even more write, even more orate, recite and all that. But internally, I went through a lot of struggle to bring out all the anger, all the disappointment, all the energies through my poetry. It was difficult to channel, but I've done it, yes. Thank you.
Yes, there.
So it's not a question. You said there's no rainbow flag and there's no trans flag.
Yeah.
But believe me, there are queer people in the audience. There are trans people in the audience who bring colors with themselves.
Thank you.
And there are colors, believe me. Another thing is, I believe when it comes to voices, trans and queer people, when it comes to spaces, they should be given, inclusivity, and they should be passed on the mic. Yeah. And thank you for your wonderful work that you have done. Thank you so much.
Thank you to the Society for Culture and Environment. Thank you, Raghav ji, for this wonderful opportunity. From my heartfelt thanks to you. And to Harikeerthan, thank you so much for the beautiful moderation, and all of you who gave their ears and your heart to listen to me, and your time especially. I know how precious it is. Thank
Yes.
you very much. And one last information is, I wanted to market my book a little bit. So it's, it's available on Amazon and Flipkart. Thank you.
हर एक व्यक्ति के पास माइक पास कर दें, अगर वक्त अलाउ करे तो ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है कि हम नहीं चाहते, हम चाहते हैं सब लोग अपनी बात सामने रख पाएं. Moving on, well, I would like to invite on stage Meenakshi Dua ji, the member of Society for Culture and Environment. भीमा जी, yes. मैं चाहूँगा भीमा जी यहाँ पे सामने आए, member of Society for Culture and Environment, and मैं चाहूँगा कि वो हमारे ऑथर और हमारे जो डिस्कसेंट है एक सम्मान स्वरूप मैस्केट पेश करें. मैं चाहूँगा तालियों का साथ होते रहना चाहिए. A memento on behalf of BLF as a symbol of love and respect. It was indeed a conversation about busting myths, busting stereotypes, including exclusiveness. Sorry. Confusion होते रहता है, चलता है. Yes, there it is. the mascot of the Bhopal Literature and Arts Festival. Was insightful to listen to Kalki ji and was thrilling to have the conversation led by Harikeerthan ji. Has been a wonderful discussant for this much awaited session. Thank you so much to everyone. Now, again, the ball is going to be in the audience's court because the second quiz question is going to be displayed on the screen. And I would request, yes, according to Freud, Brother Karamazov was one of the 3 greatest pieces of the world literature, named the Russian author who wrote the novel. So all the literature lovers, literature enthusiasts, please mobile अंदर ही रखिएगा. वहाँ पे एक हाथ खड़ा हुआ है, प्लीज वहाँ पे माइक पहुँचा दिया जाए. This? No? No, one answer is allowed for one person. Anyone else? Yes, यहाँ पे.
Dostoevsky?
Yes, and can you also help us recall the first name?
Fyodor.
Absolutely right answer. मैम आपका शुभ नाम जानना चाहेंगे हम. फिर हम गिफ्ट नहीं दे पाएंगे.
डॉक्टर नीलकमल कपूर.
ओके, मैं चाहूंगा डॉक्टर नीलकमल कपूर जी के लिए जोरदार ताली होनी चाहिए. मैं चाहूंगा बीमा मैम प्लीज एक सही जवाब के लिए एक बेहतरीन गिफ्ट. जी हाँ, तस्वीर तो और भी ज्यादा जरूरी है. ओके, दैट्स ग्रेट, अमेजिंग. आई विश क्वेश्चन भी वही होता. ओके, ग्रेट. सो लेट्स मूव